One is all about your theory. Theory is one of the source for selecting your research problem. When we talk about theory, for example, gravitational force, oil floats on the water. So these are some of the theories that we say, or scientific conceptions which are involved in theories. And researcher is required to theories that will help to identify one appropriate problem for your study. After theory, there is another source of your selecting research that is all about your experience. Your anubhuti. If you have experienced some problems during your school days, during your schooling, with regard to teaching strategy, with regard to the use of teaching learning materials, with regard to the available environment, which have influenced you, that this may be one of the area where you want to or you can have your research work. So your experience tempts you to select the problem. Jodi ame experience COVID-19 ର situation ଭୟାବହତା ଆମେ vaccine ପାଇଁ ତତ୍ପରତା ଦେଖେଇ ନଥାନ୍ତେ. So vaccine ଆସିବା ପାଇଁ ଆମକୁ ବର୍ଷ ଲାଗିଗଲା, ବର୍ଷ ପରେ ଲାଗିଗଲା. So it's all about an experience. Now you can also select some proper research problem by discussing with other experienced fellows, other experts, senior teachers. So discussion is one of the source of your selecting appropriate research problem. You can have discussion to look into your research work. You can have discussion to explore the innovative practices, innovativeness of the problem. You can have a discussion regarding the very concept of that particular problem. You can have the greater idea, clear idea about the problem through discussion. The fourth source of selecting research problem is all about your dissatisfaction. Asantosh. And we are dissatisfied souls, because our wants are unlimited. Limited or unlimited? Human wants are limited or unlimited?
Unlimited, sir.
Unlimited. Now, aji ame satisfy hai gale 5 minute pare, that satisfaction will lead to dissatisfaction. Asantosh. So dissatisfaction is one of the source of selecting your problem. Aji पंखारे संतुष्टि होतला, गरम बढ़िला, पंखा काम करलानी, चिंता कले आठु आउ गोटे कोन उन्नत धरणर हबो जे हमकु ते ठंडा देई परिबो, कूलर, एयर कंडीशनर, चिंता कले. So dissatisfaction is the source of selecting your problem, and the most important source of selecting a research problem is all about literature. You can go on studying, go on reviewing different literatures You can have your survey on literature that will help you to identify one appropriate research problem for your study, for your research work. So while reviewing, we पढ़िबा, बही देखिबा, research research abstracts देखिबा, सेठु जानि परिबा को areas of research नुआ नुआ trend रे होउची, आम पाखे सेडा होउनी, so we can have our idea about selecting a research problem that will be suitable and appropriate for us, for our study. But before going to that statement, now after selecting a problem, you need to carry basic criteria, 3 criteria to be fulfilled in order to make your problem a good problem. What are those? Number 1, the criteria of a good problem. A good problem needs to express relationship between 2 or more variables. Second criteria is now the problem should be clearly stated and it should be very precisely stated. Third criteria is now statement of the problem must imply possibilities of empirical testing. So these 3 criteria are to be fulfilled. Now after identifying your problem, the area is identified, the problem is identified, the topic is identified or selected by you, you need to state it. So there is need of your statement of the problem. Let me cite one example. While coming or while returning to your home, you noticed one accident. But whenever you are to give statement, then you are to describe that matter in detail. Another example, the statement of the problem and topic topic is not equal to statement of the problem. News देखला बेले बुलेटिन रे हेडलाइन आसुथुगो सड़क दुर्घटना रे एम्बुलेंस ड्राइवर खता सेटा होची टॉपिक टाइटल ऑफ द प्रॉब्लम जेतोले सेही न्यूज देखैबो जो माने प्रत्यक्षदर्शी थांती तांकर स्टेटमेंट निया जाए से स्टेटमेंट नेला बेले कोन कोआ जाए जे प्रत्यक्षदर्शी तांको पचरा जाए तामाने डिटेल डिस्क्रिप्शन केमिति दुर्घटना हैला ब्रेक फेल हैला स्टीयरिंग फेल हैला ड्राइवर को निद लागितला ना ड्राइवर किछि भूल नथिला पछो ट्रक आनी इट इज डिटेल डिस्क्रिप्शन. So a good statement of a problem must clarify exactly what is to be determined or solved. After you have stated your problem, you need to formulate research questions. Why you are going to conduct research and to seek the answer from that why you need to formulate this. And when we talk about characteristics of good research questions, then I will back on now these questions are to be answered during your research work. These questions are to be addressed while conducting the research. Why, how, what, and research question how the characteristics we देखिबा then I may buy on the research questions should be very specific and it should present a general idea. Now, characteristics of good research questions, these are the characteristics, like questions must be amenable to research, questions must be on solid theoretical basis. A good research question must explain the relationship and others. All these characteristics are to be taken care of while formulating your research questions for the study. After formulating research questions, objectives of research questions. Why do you frame questions for your research work? Why? Now to result into the development of new theories. प्रश्न न पचारे आम उत्तर पाइबानी आम थ्योरीज बा प्रिंसिपल्स बा लॉज केमती डिटरमाइन करबा जदि आम प्रश्न पचारिबानी व्हाट इज द रिलेशनशिप between habit and learning achievement, what is the relationship between the parental education and achievement of students, what is the relationship between the physical health of students and academic achievement. ये जो प्रश्न कथा आम कौचे ये प्रश्न पचार द्वारा आम कौन पाइबा ना we can establish the relationship between one or more variables. How can we kariba na to explore new facts, new relationships. प्रश्न कहीं की पचारिबा ना to eliminate our personal bias. ये तो मो चिन्ह लोक आपको प्रश्न पचारिबिनी जानबो केमती ता भितर कोन अछि से कोन चाहूची या मो रिलेटिव ताको प्रश्न पचारिबिनी. So there is personal bias. So to eliminate all those personal bias, you need to formulate research, to ask research questions to the respondents or participants. Now, after objectives, after the objectives have been formulated, the research questions have been formulated. Now you have to delimit, specify your area of study, area of research. That's why I mean the delimitation of the study. And while delimiting, सीमाबद्ध करिबा जेतेबेले हम स्टडी को, while delimiting your study, you need to delimit your study with regard to these aspects, these dimensions, like variables. Let me cite one example. There are number of variables for a study, but you have confined the variables to study habit and academic achievement, parental education and academic achievement. Two variables are there, but besides these there are also other variables like intelligence, like method of teaching, and others, like parental involvement, like the time devoted for study, duration of study. All these are factors, other variables. So you need to delimit your study with what? Now with You need to delimit your study with certain variables. So when we talk about that, delimitation कथा हमें कहूचे, again be delimited, size of sample, nature of sample, size of sample, whether you have or you want to collect data from the sample size of 100, 50, 1000, 500 sample तो अधिक भी करेंगे. So you have delimited your study with the sample size, nature of sample. Then another criteria is to be delimited, or aspect is to method and design indicated. Survey method nature, survey descriptive survey nature, की experimental design nature, की mixed method design nature, की convergent parallel design nature, की quasi experimental nature, की true experimental nature, की pre experimental design nature, की case study method nature, ethnographic nature, historical nature, phenomenological study nature. It needs to be delimited. Again, delimitation is to be specified in terms of your tools and techniques that are to be used. Tools and techniques. There are lots of tools and techniques available for conducting or collecting research, collecting information from the participants. But in your study, in your research work, you are to delimit. Suppose you have considered for collecting relevant data, that is one questionnaire, and the other one is your focus group discussion. So you have to delimit with regard to tools. With regard to geographical area, another aspect of delimitation. Out of Odisha as a state, your study is confined to district only. Your study is confined to Kendrapada district only, Navarampur district only, Nuapada district only, and out of Nuapada district, one block may be geographical area. Then Asiba, after that, another important point of your research design or research study, hypothesis. अनुमान से अनुमान नुआ जाना है ता अनुमान कर देबा. So hypothesis is a solution of what? A solution of your problem that you have identified and selected. So while thinking about hypothesis, you need to consider that this may be the solution of that particular problem. Suppose, let me cite one example. You were riding a bicycle. All of a sudden, आउ साइकिल गड़िलानी. पेडाल जो मारुथलो खाली पेडाल बुलुची किंतु आउ साइकिल गड़ुनी. आमे कोन एंटिसिपेट करूचे, एक्सपेक्ट करूचे चेन खसी गला कि रे, हेबल कटि गला कि रे बट पेडल तो बुलुची बट साइकिल इज नॉट गोइंग अहेड so that is what we call hypothesis you are hypothesizing that this may be the possible cause of that particular problem हेबल कटि गला नले चेन छिंडी गला नले चेन खसी गला इतने प्रकार सब आम आकलन करुचे से आकलन को वेरीफाई करछे ओलै पडुचे ब्रेक मारिकी देखुचे क्रैक रू चेन खसीची चेन खसीनी चेन ठीक अछि पेडल किंतु बुलुची ता माने हम कोन करले सेकंड अजम्पशंस देखिले कटि गला पेडल बुलुची किंतु साइकिल आगु बढ़ु so while thinking about hypothesis or tentative solution of a particular problem you need to consider different sources of hypothesis ये जो हमें अनुमान कले आकलन कले जे this may be the tentative solution of that particular problem let me cite another example एमते मैं hypothesis करूचे how do you hypothesize मूवी देखुतले बा फेवरेट सीरियल देखुतले शक्तिमान हो सकला का बुम बुम हो कि आउ किसी सास भी कभी बहू की वगैरह वगैरह जहाँ भी हमें देखुचे वीरा वगैरह जहाँ भी देखुचे ओडिया सीरियल जहाँ भी हमें देखुचे यात्रा देखुचे टीवी देखुतले ऑल ऑफ ए सडन टीवी टा बंद हो गला at instant संगे संगे हम को करछे हाइपोथेसिस अनुमान करनो छे ए घरे तो लाइन जळुची टीवीटा बंद हो गला काहे की सेही बोर्ड रो फ्यूज कटि जाय नी तो संगे संगे हम खोजी पकोचे बोर्ड रे फ्यूज अछि कि नाही कि कटि जाय छी आफ्टर वेरिफिकेशन हमें इंश्योर हो गले नाही नाही बोर्ड रे फ्यूज अछि सो जो हम काटि देले पुणी को चिंता करछे अरे बोर्ड रो फ्यूज अछि माने करंट जाउची टीवी रो फ्यूज कटि गेला कि रे मुसा काटि देला कि रे so likewise we frame formulate different hypotheses there may be possible reasons possible solutions to that particular problem and we go on verifying one after another and reach at the destination or solution. So while thinking about hypothesis, you can hypothesize based on different sources. What are those? Experience and creativity of the researcher. If you are a creative researcher, you have some sort of experience in research work, then you can do better hypothesis. You can formulate better hypothesis as compared to the new entrants, the novice researchers. जहार केबे साइकिल चढ़ेबार अभ्यास नाही अनुभूति केबे नेइनी से कहि परिबो कि ऑल ऑफ अ सडन मध्ये साइकिल बंद हो गला कोन हेतिबो कहि परिबो साइकिल चले के आसला घरे थोइची सकाळ तापर सकाळ भारला लागू हावा नाही से कहबो पंक्चर हो गला डायरेक्ट कहबो तार एक्सपीरियंस नाही हुई तो तुम सान भाई बा भौणी रागरे गलटी काढ़े हेतिबो हावा पड़ैतिबो इसमें happen second source of your formulating hypothesis is all about your background knowledge यदि हमारा background knowledge नहीं then हमें proper hypothesis formulate कर परिबा ना now being a teacher मते यदि पचरबो क्लासरूम रे प्रॉब्लम कोन होची पिलाकर then I can hypothesize मते ना कहबो नासा रे कोन प्रॉब्लम हेची पुओ I will not be able because I don't have that background knowledge मते ना करे जाई कि पुओ कोन होची I will not be able to do that because of lack of background knowledge in that particular field. The third source of formulating hypothesis is all about your scientific theories. Scientific theories will tempt you to analyze the matter, to look at the consequences and formulate a hypothesis. Now, after these, what are the characteristics of a good hypothesis? First and foremost characteristics of a good hypothesis is that it must be testable. It must be testable. Second, I am going to your hypothesis need to state the expected relationship between variables. Expected relationship, whether there is any kind of relationship between your study habit and learning achievement, whether there is any kind of relationship between your parental involvement and learning achievement, and others. This is to be tested. Third characteristics of a good hypothesis, it needs to suggest a tentative solution to the problem. Must be clearly and precisely stated hypothesis. एते लंबा बड़ हाइपोथेसिस करथले गोटे बड़ पैराग्राफ भलिया पढि कि बुझिला को मुंड जाम हेजो सेमति होबनी. It should be very precise, it should be clearly stated, as practicable as possible. Now, while formulating hypotheses, we may have different kinds of hypotheses. Hypothesis. One, directional hypothesis. Two, non-directional hypothesis. In directional hypothesis, what happens? Now it stipulates the direction of the expected differences or relationships. It only stipulates that there is expected differences or relationship. Called directional hypothesis. Directional hypothesis मतलब कौन कौचे ना it only stipulates the direction of expected difference. Directional hypothesis मतलब कौचे. For example, हमें कोई बात कौन there is positive relationship between your learning and your study habit. It means हमें कौचे कौन one direction is there. We are directing, we are stipulating the expected difference. तामाने जदि study habit भलो होबनी performance भलो होबनी. जदि regular study habit रहइबो ताले performance भलो हो. This is what we call directional hypothesis. Non-directional hypothesis कौन? The non-directional hypothesis doesn't specify any direction of the expected difference or any kind of relationship. For example, हमें कोई भी non-directional hypothesis order रे there is a significant difference in academic achievement of students on ground of gender. मुखल कोई भी difference is there, but किंतु direction कहली नहीं से difference रे who is performing better, boys are performing better or girls are performing better, but खाली कहली कोनो कि there is difference in the academic achievement of boys and girls. किंतु एक कथा कहली नहीं कि से difference टा रे किए भलो करछुती कि अपेक्षा को कम खराब करछुती. Non-directional difference is there, but not specifying a particular direction, a particular relationship. Again, research हमें तो कौन सा hypothesis हमें कहते maybe of declarative hypothesis. Declarative केतेबेले ना when the researcher makes a positive statement about the outcome of the study. When you are to specify a positive statement about the outcome of the study, that kind of hypothesis will be declarative hypothesis. And almost all the declarative hypothesis is directional hypothesis because you are to declare a positive statement. This is directional, is similar to directional hypothesis. Another type of hypothesis we come across, that is null hypothesis. Null means no. And the null hypothesis कथा कहूचे the researcher is to state that there is no relationship exists. It means for example there doesn't exist any relationship between learning achievement and parental involvement. There is no significant difference in learning achievement of boys and girls. That is what we call null. No relationship exists. Another form of your hypothesis is all about your question form. Question form of hypothesis, like question is asked regarding what? Now what the outcome will be, instead of stating what outcome is expected. I mean, but what will be the outcome? Let me cite one example. Will the teaching of 5E model bring good result? What will be the outcome? That is the question form of your hypothesis. After that, I would consider research problem. Research, educational researcher, research field. One is your population, second one is all about your sample. What is population? Now, population is any group of individuals or units that have one or more similar kind of characteristics or characteristics in common. Common characteristics that is a population. It consists of group of individuals. But what happens, it is not feasible or possible on the part of the researcher to collect data from the entire population. 1000 लोग होतिबे, 50,000 लोग होतिबे, जीवन तो चले 50,000 कोन डाटा आनला. So what do you do? Now in research work, we prefer to collect data from the sample instead of meeting the individual need of that population. So sample is nothing, rather it's the true representative of the entire group. For example, आमे कहूचे मीटिंग हला बेले कोनोसी गुरुत्वपूर्ण मीटिंग रे सबु पिला कोन जानती सेति पय थान तम क्लास मॉनिटर बा क्लास रिप्रेजेंटेटिव सीआर ताको कहूचा. They are representing your ideas, your views to the authority. So a sample is representative of the entire group, or we can say a sample is a small proportion of a population selected for the study. Yesterday I was talking about that vaccine, first phase trial, second phase trial, fourth phase, third phase trial. समस्त ऊपर कोन हेतिला, समस्त ऊपर हे नथिला. से जो ट्रायआउट ता हेतिला स्मॉल ग्रुप ऊपर हेतिला. on the basis of the performance of that vaccine, we assume that it will work to the entire group. So, a sample is a small proportion of a population selected for the study, who are to be considered as the true representatives of the entire group. Another term is there, you need to know. While thinking about sample, arises how to select sample, how to collect sample. Thereby comes your sampling procedure. So sampling is another term associated with research work. Sampling refers to the strategies which enable the researcher to pick a subgroup from the entire larger group and you collect information from this sample from few numbers and you make judgment about the larger group or the entire population. That is what we call sampling. Then comes, you sampling kotha kauche, it's a process of collecting units. It's a process of collecting or picking subgroup from the larger group. Then there are different kinds of methods or designs of sampling. There are different kinds of sampling methods or techniques of sampling. Sampling techniques के कौन थी, के designs कौन की, के methods भी कौन थी. There are different kinds of sampling techniques. What are those? Am I audible clearly? Or there is some problem in audio?
Yes,
No,
sir.
no, no. Audible.
Audible tha?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So let's discuss about different sampling techniques or designs or methods. Now all the methods or designs or techniques of sampling may be grouped into two types of sampling techniques are widely used. One is your probability sampling technique and the other one is non-probability sampling technique. Let me cite one example that will clarify the concept of probability sampling and non-probability sampling. What is your number today? How many are there? 37 or 36?
36.
But let's take it 36. Am I audible?
Yes, sir.
So let's consider that the entire population of today's class is 36. Now whatever I am talking for the entire class of 36 number of students. And whenever there will be a need that I need to ensure that how far you have understood my teaching. What will I do? I will call some names X, Y, Z. What is that? What is that? What is that? To ensure that how far or the extent of your understanding of the content that I have taught you. That is what we will sample. For example, ମୁଁ କହିବି କିଏ କହିବ sample କାହାକୁ କହନ୍ତି? Who will speak? If I follow this technique, who is going to speak about the concept of sample and population? It means the question is put to the entire class. Yes or no? तो मैं कहबी sample के कहबो sample रो अर्थ कोन बुझछ population रो अर्थ कोन बुझछ, it means the question is for the entire class or not?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
जण पिला अछ समस्ते इक्वली चांस पाइलो आंसर दबा पाई, किंतु मु सेया न कहि कि फॉर एग्जांपल कहि थांती असित कहिलो सैंपलिंग कोन
The particular
दीप्ति
number
सैंपल कोन ता माने मु जण को स्पेसिफाई कली आउ जो 35 जण पिला रहिले they didn't get a chance to answer. So the probability sampling कथा कहूचे, probability sampling technique कथा कहूचे, it means there is possibility, there is probability of each individual unit of the particular group to be selected as sample. That is what we call probability sampling technique. It means you have the equal chance to be selected as the sample. But second case रे मुको कहली, second case रे मुको कहली कौन फॉलो कली की टेक्निक असित कुह दीप्ति कुह दले एक कथा कहूची कौन कहली जतबेले कौन हला जतबेले now the possibility of being called for the answer was neglected. So there is non-probability technique. तमन तमे आउ जो 35 जन पिला थिले से आउ चांस पाइले नाही से प्रश्न उत्तर दबा पाई जदियो से मन जानत बा न जानत. So likewise, when you talk about probability sampling technique, it means there is probability of each individual unit of the group is selected as the sample. Let me cite one example. तमे 36 जन अछ मु वर्तमान कहबी आज मु गोटे तुम चॉकलेट देबी, चॉकलेट देबी कहा को देबी ना जहार टोकन नंबर 1 आसीबो, जहार टोकन नंबर 1 आसीबो मु 1 रु 36 करके 36 टा टोकन देली एमि दी पारे बा केवल कागज रे 1 नंबर लिखाई छ आ सब जांग ब्लैंक लिखि की फोल्ड करी पकेली जणे जणे उठैलो तामाने देयर इज चांस टू बी सिलेक्टेड टू बी द विनर ऑफ दैट चॉकलेट. यस और नो? देयर इज पॉसिबिलिटी. समस्त पाखा चांस होइला अरे मो लॉटरी उठिबो मु चॉकलेट पाई पारे पॉसिबिलिटी. जदि मु सेटा न कहि की मु कहिथांदी ना ना एक नंबर रोल नंबर का चॉकलेट देबी ता माने आउ जो 35 जन पिला आज नेग्लेक्ट हे गले पाइले नि चांस चॉकलेट पाई पार. So that's why probability sampling technique under रे आइ सब जांक देखुचे probability sampling technique under रे these are the techniques or methods which come under probability sampling technique. Simple random sampling, systematic sampling, stratified sampling, cluster sampling, multi-stage and multi-phase sampling. Let us discuss one after another. Simple random sampling. गोटे क्लास को गलो से क्लास तुम 4टा पिला दरकार तुम चिन्ह न जानि न किए भलो किए खराब किए कोन कहूछ रैंडमली पूरा एमती एमती करी उठैलो 4टा पिला सर मु 4टा पिला को डिस्कशन करया पई चाहू छु. सिंपल रैंडम पूरा किछि सिस्टम नाही विचार नाही किछि देखि रैंडमली उठैलो सो दैट कोन हो एटा समस्त पाखे इक्वल चांस मिलियो. रैंडम टेबल गोटे अछि टेबल ना सब रोल नंबर लिखि देलो सब पिला उठिले तुमको दरकार चारटा पिला उठे नहीं पळा आसला हे गला लाइकवाइज सिस्टमैटिक सैंपलिंग रे हमें कहूचे सिस्टमैटिक सैंपलिंग रे गोटे केथ नंबर थाए केथ नंबर माने करो क्लास रे 100 पिला अछंती तमे नबो 20 टा पिला केतरा पिला
20 children.
केतरा पिला नबो 20 पिला 100 पिला का रोल नंबर लिखि दियो 100 पिला का रोल नंबर लिखि दियो रोल नंबर लिखि सरला परे तमर दरकार सैंपल साइज केते ना 20 माने से रोल नंबर तुम एणे तने लेख आग जमती पाच लेख लेख तमर 20 पिला दरकार माने बुझी पाछ तो तमर 20 टा सैंपल दरकार सैंपल साइज ता माने केथ नंबर अब किए ना प्रत्येक पंचम पिला तमर अब सैंपल प्रत्येक पंचम पिला तमरे रोल नंबर असेंडिंग लेख डिसेंडिंग लेख मिसिंग लेख जमती लेख पूरा रैंडम लेख सो 1 रु 5 पंचम पिला तमर आसी गला प्रथम सैंपल 5 रु 10 10 नंबर रोल नंबर पिला तम आसी गला सेकंड सैंपल एमती तमे 20 टा सैंपल तमे पाई जिवो आउट ऑफ 100 पिला स्ट्रैटिफाइड सैंपलिंग कोन ना तुमको दरकार 50 पिला 50 पिला को भांगिलो 25 बॉय 25 गर्ल्स से 25 बॉयज को भितर पुणी भांगिलो 25 बॉयज को भितर भांगिलो 12 रूरल पिला 13 अर्बन पिला से 25 गर्ल्स को भितर पुणी भांगिलो 12 रूरल पिला एमती पिला में स्ट्रैटा करि दोचे different layers करि दोचे that becomes your stratified sampling clustered sampling तमन सब जानथि बो स्कूल रे जीवन सब जॉब करछो there is CRCC cluster resource coordinator केते गोटे स्कूल को नै की गोटे क्लस्टर कराई था so cluster को दिला में धरिबा there is possibility of each school to be selected as sample multi stage and multi stage sampling माने आजी किछि सैंपल फेले काले आउ किछि नबा so there is possibility of getting or being selected as sample for this study under non probability sampling technique रे हम कोन कहउतली there is no equal chance of each individual to be selected as the sample under non probability sampling technique incidental purposive and quota for example incidental बाटरे जाउथले के जने भेट पड़ी गले कथा होगा जानले से तमर काम रे आसीबे से तुमको किछि हेल्प करि परबे इन्सिडेंटल सैंपलिंग जान नथलो से आउ काडे गलनी पर्पसिव सैंपलिंग फॉर एग्जांपल तमर स्टडी होउची स्लम एरिया ऊपर स्लम ड्वेलर्स को ऊपर स्लम चिल्ड्रन को ऊपर बर्तन तुम गोटे स्कूल को जाइछो 9th क्लास रे डाटा कलेक्शन करिवो काठ आनिबो केवल स्टूडेंट्स बिलोंगिंग टू स्लम एरिया आउ रेस्ट पिला को छाड़ देलो तो सेमानो चांस फाइलेन टू बी सिलेक्टेड एज द सैंपल कोटा सैंपलिंग जो कोटा कथा हमें कहूचे कोटा रिजर्व लाइकवाइज others are the bad they didn't get so the quota sampling कथा हमें कहूचे quota sampling भी हमको सेमली देखिबा को पड़िबो so you can collect data from adapting all of these so quota sampling એટલે અમે देखुचे कोन ना non probability sampling अंडर हमें quota sampling कहूचे it is based on the judgment of the researcher which is decided by the researcher so quota sampling hame कहि परिया कोन ना on the basis of quota You can select sample units. These are the two different frames of sampling design, probability and non-probability. Then tools of data collection. खाली कहूली टूल और टेक्निक्स आज टूल्स भितर की क्या आसो देखिबा टेक्निक्स ऑफ डाटा कलेक्शन केमते हम करिया टूल्स ऑफ डाटा कलेक्शन रे हमें पाइबा गोटे क्वेश्चनर प्रश्न गुच्छ जोडी खाली प्रश्न तयारी करी के रखिबा गोटे 20 30 50 considering your ability your nature of study time length वगैरह वगैरह class age level ये सब कंसीडर करिया पड़िबो so questionnaire is the tool for data collection by which you can collect data. How, why? The questionnaire asibo closed ended questionnaire or open ended questionnaire asibo. Structured questionnaire same asibo. Closed hele, do you like eating rice? Yes or no? Open ended hele, why do you like eating rice? आसीगला ओपन सेठी का कोन केमति लागबो सेटा लेसिया लिखबो रेटिंग स्केल अनदर टूल फॉर डाटा कलेक्शन you have to rate strongly agree undecided disagree strongly disagree out of different availabilities so the rating scale also rating scale may be of numerical, descriptive, graphic, ranking, forced choices. This is another tool that can be used for data collection. Attitude scale, I mean, मनोभाव जानिया पाई attitude scale आमे कहूचे Likert type scale रे positive negative रहउची हमरो do you like mixing with others yes positive and negative जानिबा से जानि परिबा attitude do you like teaching yes or no ताने जानि परिबा attitude towards teaching यदि no कहला attitude नाही teaching नाही another tool is there checklist माने हम कोन कहूचे ना ए लिस्ट जेंत हम सौदा पई जाउचे दुकान को गोटे लिस्ट नै जाउचे एआई आनिले आनि देखुचे सेमते चेकलिस्ट जरा हम जानि पे सपोज के जानि पई चाहूची इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चरल फैसिलिटीज अवेलेबल इन एलिमेंटरी स्कूल्स क्लासरूम अछि टॉयलेट अछि ड्रिंकिंग वाटर अछि यस और नो देखि के आसो टिक मारियो अछि जदि अछि कंडीशन कोन अछि गुड और बैड वर्किंग और आउट ऑफ ऑर्डर चेकलिस्ट डिफरेंट टेस्ट आर देयर achievement test, intelligence test, emotional intelligence test. This is what learning style scales are there. A test the matter of inventories, another tool of data collection. Techniques rasibo kon na interview and observation. Kemiti sakshatkar karibo, kemiti parjabekhan karibo. Interview and observation are the two tools of data collection. So techniques of data collection. Then हमें आसीबा हमें कहले ये टूल गुडा को गुड टूल बोली कंसीडर केमिति करिबा whether it is good or not. केमिति कंसीडर करिबा ना there are certain characteristics which are to be determined by the researcher while selecting a tool or developing a tool. One is validity, second one is reliability, third one is objectivity, fourth one is adequacy, fifth one is usability and discriminating power and interest. Validity माने कोन ना जो हमें कहूचे जो पर्पस कथा हमें कहूचे सेही पर्पस रे जदी फुलफिल करछ त मोर टूल then the tool is valid. If the tool satisfies the purpose or the intention for which it has been designed, then the tool has validity. जेमते हमर ओटे फेस वैलिडिटी अछि तम घर को तम सांग जीव कह मा मु आसिली तम ना धरिकी he or she will not सो वैलिडिटी मतलब कहूचे जो उद्देश्य नै कि टेस्ट हम करिया पय जाउथुबा पिलांकर धर इंग्लिश जानिया पय हम चाहुथुबा सेठी मैथमेटिक्स रो क्वेश्चन पचारिबा देन द टेस्ट विल और द टूल विल लैक वैलिडिटी पर्पस थिला मैथमेटिक्स एबिलिटी जानिया पय इंग्लिश रो प्रश्न पचारलेनी सेति पय देखुचो सब बेले क्वेश्चन पाउ पाउ बा हाय हाय ट्राई ट्राई करते हम सब आउट ऑफ सिलेबस करते काहे कि ना लैक्स वैलिडिटी रिलायबिलिटी ना कंसिस्टेंसी हो आज जो क्वेश्चन ता देइचे जो टेस्ट ता यूज करछे यदि सेही टेस्ट रो आंसर काली पुनी बदली जाउची ताले टेस्ट लैक्स रिलायबिलिटी निर्भर योग्य नुहे ऑब्जेक्टिविटी अनदर क्राइटेरिया वस्तुनिष्ठ हवा दरकार एडिक्वेसी हवा दरकार प्रश्न पचारछ माने जो जो उत्तर तमर दरकार इट शुड बी एडिक्वेट यूजेबिलिटी इतला में देखुचे ऑफ द टूल एमिति इंस्ट्रूमेंट बा टूल तयारी करिबानी जा कला को प्रॉब्लम हबो पिला को बुझिया पय बोधगम्य हबनी टाइम जति की देइतबा जति की सफिशिएंट हो नथिबो 100 टा क्वेश्चन एथे आधा घंटे समय हो नथिबो पंचम श्रेणी पिला देइतबा 100 क्वेश्चन ता धैर्य रहइबनी यूजेबिलिटी देखियो पड़िबो discriminating power देखिए पड़िबो ना each statement each question should be different from the other नहेले सेही प्रश्न जा द्वितीय प्रश्न भी सही है पिलाउ इंटरेस्ट तक the last one when you talk about selection of a good tool it means it should arouse interest among the test giver जे तुमको परीक्षा दबो जाट तुम डाटा आनिबो तार किछि आग्रह सृष्टि होतबो तुमको रिस्पांस कर दबा पाई जदि बोर लागिला ए मन इच्छा आखि बुझी की 10 20 50 100 मल्ला पकेला बलिया 10 20 30 40 50 100 पकेला बलिया जोड मतलब टिक मार सो दीज आर द क्राइटेरिया which are to be taken care of while selecting the good tool for your research work. So this is all for today, and we discussed about what the block 3 entitled as research design, where we discussed about the identification of problem, characteristics of a good problem, research questions, the concept of hypothesis and the types of hypothesis, sample population sampling technique under which we discussed about probability non-probability sampling technique and different tools and techniques which can be used for your research work to conduct your research. Once again, thank you all for joining me.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Sir,
Thank you, sir.
PT, sir, please.
Thank you very much.
Sir, can you share the PPT, sir?
Yes, yes.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
I'll say. Definitely. So let's call it a day.
ସାରଙ୍କର ଆଉ ଅଛି ନା ସରିଗଲାଣି ଆଉ 2 ଦିନ କ୍ଲାସ କରିବେ ତ ସାର୍ ନା
ଆଉ ଗୋଟେ ଦିନ
ହ୍ୟାଲୋ
5 जाके क्लास करिए सर 5
ଆଉ ଦିଟା ବ୍ଲଗ ଅଛି ନା ଏଟା ଥାର୍ଡ ବ୍ଲଗ ଅଛି
नहीं ना आगोटा वॉल्यूम
ଆଉ
अच्छी
ବ୍ଲଗ ଅଛି
वॉल्यूम 2
ଭଲ୍ୟୁମ 2 ରେ
इसका
କେତେଟା ବ୍ଲଗ
दीटा बुक अच्छी पर
ହଁ 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 ଯେ କେତେଟା ଅଛି ବ୍ଲଗ ଭଲ୍ୟୁମ 2 ରେ
2 रे कितना तो मन नहीं से भी बोझे से भी 5टा बोले
5ଟା ବ୍ଲଗ ନା ଏତେ ଥିବ
ହଁ ଅଛି ନା ଷ୍ଟାଟିଷ୍ଟିକ୍ସ ସବୁ ଅଛି।
ହଁ
ଭଲ୍ୟୁମ
ଏବେ
2 ରେ
ସାଙ୍ଗ
ଦିଟା
କ୍ଲାସ ପାଞ୍ଚ ଯାଏଁ ଅଛି। ଦିଟା ବ୍ଲକ ଅଛି।
ହଁ ଦିଟା ଅଛି, ଦିଟା ବ୍ଲକ ଅଛି, ଦିଟା ବ୍ଲକ ଅଛି।
ଭଲ କଥା। ସେଥିରେ ଷ୍ଟାଟିଷ୍ଟିକ୍ସ ବହୁତ ହାର୍ଡ
କାଲି ଆଉ
ଅଛି କିନ୍ତୁ।
ତାର ତ
ନେକ୍ସଟ
ଫାଷ୍ଟ
ୱିକ୍
ଦିନ
କରିବେ ବୋଧେ ଟେଷ୍ଟ।
କରିନାହାନ୍ତି, ତାଙ୍କୁ ରିକ୍ୱେଷ୍ଟ କଲେ ହବ।
ହଁ
ହଁ
ଆଉ
ସାର୍
ଗୋଟେ ଦିନ
ଫାଷ୍ଟ
ଏକ୍ସଟେଣ୍ଡ କରିଦେବେ।
ଦିନ କରିନାହାନ୍ତି।
ଓହୋ
କରିନାହାନ୍ତି, ଆଉ ଗୋଟେ ଦିନ ଏକ୍ସଟେନସନ
କୋଉଟା ବ୍ଲକ
କରିବେ।
ୱାନ୍ ଟା
ନା ନା
ବ୍ଲକ
ସେ
ୱାନ୍
ପୁରା
ଟା
ପଛକୁ କରିବେ।
ଯୋଉ ଦିନ ବ୍ଲକ ୱାନ୍ ଥିଲା
ବ୍ଲକ ୱାନ୍ ଟା
ସେଦିନ ସାର୍
ସେକେଣ୍ଡ
କଣ
ଦିନରେ
ନା
ପଢେଇଲେ।
ଯାଇଥିଲେ। ହୁଁ।
ହୁଁ।
ତାହେଲେ ସାର୍ ବ୍ଲକ ୱାନ୍ ପଢେଇ ନାହାନ୍ତି ତ, ମୁଁ ସେଦିନ ଜଏନ୍ କରିନଥିଲି।
ଆରେ ନା ନା
ସାର୍
ବ୍ଲକ ୱାନ୍
ନା ବ୍ଲକ
ପଢେଇଛନ୍ତି,
ୱାନ୍
ଯୋଉ ଦିନ
ପଢେଇଛନ୍ତି।
ବ୍ଲକ ୱାନ୍
ହଁ
ଥିଲା ସେଦିନ
ହଁ
ସାର୍ ନଥିଲେ, ତ ତା ପରଦିନ
ହଁ
ବ୍ଲକ
ହଁ
ୱାନ୍
ହଁ
ଜାଗାରେ ବ୍ଲକ ୱାନ୍
ହଁ
ପଢେଇଛନ୍ତି। ଗୋଟେ
ମାନେ
ମିସ୍
ୱାନ୍
ଏକରେ
ହେଇଯାଇଛି
ଆମର
ଆଉ
ଆଗେ
ସରିବା
ସରୁ
କଥା
ତାପରେ
ଦୁଇରେ
କହିବେ।
ସରିବ। ହଁ।
ସାରଙ୍କୁ କହିବା
ସରୁ
ନା
ତାପରେ
ସାର୍
କହିବେ
କଣ
ଲାଷ୍ଟକୁ।
କାଲି କହିବା ଆଉ ଗୋଟେ ଟିକେ ଏକ୍ସଟ୍ରା କରିବି ଆଉ।
ହଁ ସାରଙ୍କୁ କହିବା।
ହୁଁ ଅସିତ ସାର୍, ଅସିତ
ଆଜ୍ଞା
ସାର୍।
ଆଜ୍ଞା
ଆପଣ ନମ୍ବର ଟା ଟିକେ କହିଲେ।
ମେସେଜ କରିଦେଇଥିଲି।
ଆଜ୍ଞା।
ମେସେଜ କରିଦଉଛି।
ହଉ ଏଇ ଗ୍ରୁପ ରେ।
ହଁ ଏଇ ଏବେ ମେସେଜ।
ହଁ ହଁ କୁହନ୍ତୁ, କରନ୍ତୁ।
ପାଇଲେ ତ?
ସାର୍ ମତେ ଟିକେ ଆଡ୍ କରିଦେବେ ତ ରେଭେନ୍ସା କଲେଜ
କୋଉଠି
ଗ୍ରୁପରେ, ହ୍ୱାଟ୍ସଆପ ଗ୍ରୁପରେ।
ଆପଣ କୋଉଠି ଆପଣ
ରେଭେନ୍ସା
ନା
କଲେଜ।
ରେଭେନ୍ସା?
ଆଜ୍ଞା
ତାହେଲେ ଗୋଟେ କମନ ଗ୍ରୁପ କରିଦେଇଛି, ମୁଁ ଲିଙ୍କ ଟା ଦେଖୁନ ଗ୍ରୁପରେ ଆଉଥରେ ମେସେଜ କରିଦେଇଛି।
ଆଜ୍ଞା ସାର୍।
ଗୋଟେ କମନ ଗ୍ରୁପ ମାନେ ଭୁବନେଶ୍ୱର, ଆସିଛି ଭୁବନେଶ୍ୱର ବହୁତ ରେଭେନ୍ସା ଆଣ୍ଡ
ଟିକେ
ମୋ
ତୁମ ନମ୍ବର
ନମ୍ବର
ଦେଲେ
ଟା
ମତେ ଆଡ୍
ଆଉଥରେ ମେସେଜ
କରିଦେବେ।
କରନ୍ତୁ। ଲିଙ୍କ ଟା ବି ଆଉଥରେ ଏବେ ଛାଡି ଦଉଛି, ମେସେଜ କରିଦଉଛି ଆଉଥରେ। ନମ୍ବର ଟା ଏବେ କରିଦେଉଛି, ମେସେଜ କରିଦେଉଛି। ଏଇ ଲିଙ୍କ ଟା ଏବେ ଛାଡିଲି, ସେଥିରେ ଆପଣ ଜଏନ ବି ହେଇଯିବେ, ମେସେଜ ବି କରିଦେଉଛି। ସମସ୍ତେ ଆସାଇନମେଣ୍ଟ ଦେଇ ସାରିଲେଣି?
ଆଜ୍ଞା।
ସମସ୍ତେ ଆସାଇନମେଣ୍ଟ ଦେଇ ସାରିଲେଣି ତ?
ଆଜ୍ଞା ମୁଁ
ନା
କେବେଠାରୁ ସବମିଟ
ଦେଇନୁ।
କରିସାରିଲିଣି, 15 ଦିନ ହବ।
ଏକ୍ସଟେନସନ ହେଇଗଲା ପରା।
ଆଜି ତ ଲାଷ୍ଟ ଡେଟ୍
ବଢିବ
ଥିଲା।
ଜୁନରେ ବଢିବ।
ଏକ୍ସଟେନସନ ହେଇଯାଇଛି 31 ମେ।
ଯାଉ ଭଲ। ଯିଏ ନ ଦେଇଛନ୍ତି ଦେବେ ସେମାନେ ଲେଖିଦେବେ ଆଉ।
ଗୁଡ୍ ଇଭିନିଂ ରହୁଛି।
କେବଳ ଦେବେ କେମିତିଆ।
ସେଦିନ ସାରଙ୍କୁ କିଏ ପଚାରିଥିଲେ ବା ଲିଙ୍ଗରାଜ ସାର୍ କ୍ଲାସ କରିବେ ବୋଲି, ବୁଝିଲେ କି?
ସମସ୍ତେ